Yo, what's going on YouTube? It's your boy Motion, bringing you guys another Apollo 250cc video. We're just taking it down these roads real quick to go over to this restaurant. But in today's video, I told you guys I'll talk about 5 things that we love about this bike. Starting off with the bike's height. So of course, the bike is very tall. It's bigger than a pit bike. It's actually not a pit bike. Those other 125s and 140cc Chinese bikes, those are all pit bikes. The tires are a lot smaller. Everything's a lot smaller on it. Oh, there's a car coming. But yeah, so the height is a lot different. So it's actually like a real dirt bike. Like, it's a lot taller than a smaller pit bike. So we love that about the bike because it actually feels like a dirt bike. It's bigger, it's taller. It's not no small Chinese looking pit bike. So it actually feels better than those 125s and 140cc pit bikes that we're used to getting. With that being said, that leads up to the number 2 thing that we actually like about the bike, and that's the fact that this bike has 5 gears. So the other pit bikes, it's all 4 gears, and it's all revving up, like, or shifting up. You shift up, you get to first, second, third, and fourth, and then you shift down to go first, fourth, third, second, first, neutral, which kind of like it's easier for a beginner. But normal dirt bikes, they're not normally like that. They're actually like 1 down, half click up is a neutral, and then full click up is second, third, fourth, fifth. And that's what this bike actually has. This bike actually has the first gear is clicking down, which that's why we like about it, because it actually has that feeling of a real dirt bike. Just like the height of the bike, it actually feels like a dirt bike. So it kind of prepares you for whenever you get a dirt bike or a motorcycle or anything like that, you're prepared to struggle trying to find neutral. If you guys know what I'm talking about, sometimes finding neutral can be a little difficult just because it's a half click, and you'll half click and you think you're in neutral, but you're actually in second, which sucks because it's a full click. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's one thing that we did like about this bike, is because of that, it just feels like an actual dirt bike. Now the third thing that I want to talk to you guys about is the speed. Again, if you saw from the last 2 videos, this bike is a lot faster. We're gonna go on some trails. I usually don't like going through trails because it's a little bit bumpy on the GoPro and it looks bad, but yeah, we're talking about the third thing, which is the speed of this bike. It has a lot more speed, so if you're riding it on those streets and stuff, you don't feel like a moped. You don't feel like a slow moped that's getting passed by all these other cars and stuff. You actually have that speed where you can keep up with cars. Now, first of all, these bikes are not meant to be road driven or rode on the actual streets. They're not street legal bikes. But sometimes we go through this trail. We have to be on the main road. Ooh, it's so bumpy just to get to the trail. So it feels nice to have the power and the speed that you want on a bike. So that's the third thing that we were talking about. Oh, so bumpy. Oh my gosh. Do you even vape, bro? I'm gonna put the bike down too. Alright, we're in neutral. Jesus. So another thing that we do like about the bike is the actual panels, because as you guys can see, these panels aren't like cheap plastic. Like, they're on there really, really good. If you compare it to, like, turn the bike off. these panels are actually really sturdy and like they're not going to fall off. But if you compare it to like the Apollo, like look how flimsy this is. Very flimsy. These back ones are already snapped off, so it's like very cheap plastics. This one snapped off too, but the one about the 250 is it actually stays on there really strong and tight. Like it's not really going to fold or break or anything like that. So the quality of the bike just looks a lot better. It feels a lot better because nothing's like shaking or anything like that. The panels are on there really snug compared to the 125. Next, I want to tell you guys about the clutching on this bike. We actually really do like how the downshifts are actually pretty smooth. Like when you downshift, the engine braking is not too bad. It does have a little bit of engine braking, but it's not too bad. As long as you slower the speeds and then downshift, if you're going like, I don't know, 40 miles per hour in third gear and then you drop to second, you're gonna feel mad engine braking. But if you can control it and like you drop down when you're slowing down, the engine braking is not as bad as like this bike. I think we had like 6 or 7 things. I'm just gonna tell you guys all of them. And then the other thing again is of course the price of the bike. Now if you get a normal 250, like an actual bike like Kawasaki or KTM or anything like that, Honda, those bikes are very expensive brand new. You can get them for like $7,000 to $10,000 brand new. But this 250, good thing about it is, how much was this? Like $1,400? $1,500 with taxes. So it comes out to like $1,600, $1,500, which is really cheap for a brand new bike. If you want to get into riding for the first time, this bike is what you want to get just because you can learn on it and stuff like that. Now again, this compares, it just, yeah, we'll talk about that though in the next video. The only thing is it depends on your height, because this bike is taller than this bike by a lot. So like for me, I'm 5'7", I have to tippy toe when I'm on it. But if you're a taller rider, if you're like 6 feet, you should not get one of these little ones, just because the bike is just too small. It feels small, it looks small, and then you're going to be a big dude on it, which the suspension is not going to be able to handle you. We tried putting 2 people on this one and it was dropping so low that we can hear it scraping and stuff. So if you're a bigger person, I wouldn't get that. This one is probably more heftier, so this is something that you want to go with compared to the 125. And then the last thing that we want to talk about is the carburetor. So for some reason, these bikes on both this one and the RFZ, the 125, it bogs like crazy. If you don't know what bogging is, it's when you gas it and it doesn't like give you the power that you need when you gas it. It just kind of like, it's just, there's no power there. So this bike doesn't bog as much. Not really. It doesn't ever really bog that much. He said it doesn't bog for him. So the carburetor on this bike, surprisingly for a Chinese bike, they usually say the carburetors are trash, but this one actually is pretty good. It doesn't bog, has no problems like that. The only difference is this bike, it's just a lot more heavier. So I'm going to talk to you guys about the 5 things that we hate about this bike in the next video. So stay. What'd you touch? The exhaust? Which part? The purple part?
Yeah.
Why'd you touch it?
I don't know. I have to touch the weld.
That joint is hot. But yeah, so in the next video, we will tell you, because we don't want to be skeptical. We don't want to be like, oh, these bikes are amazing, we love them. So we do want to break it down to the 5 things we love about the bike, so that way you guys can get a general idea of why we like them. And then we'll break it down to the 5 things we dislike about the bikes. That way you guys know what problems that we've had. We've had these bikes for what, 2 months? 2 months now? 3 months? Has it been that long?
When did it?
I think we have had it for like, we had it for about 2 or 3 months. So we know the bikes pretty well. We know them. And we're just going to break down to you in the next video the 5 things we hate about the bike.